I didn't get nearly as riled up as I thought I was going to, especially after that first one. I was hot. But
you were, and I was like, oh no, this is going to be an interesting video. They're going to see a new side to you. Hi everybody, my name is Kelsey. I have a Chris, and we're about to get very, very nerdy with 1-star reviews. I don't know what to do with that. This is a video that is not at all new to the YouTubes, but I thought it would be fun to bring the hubby on and talk about books that we have either both read, loved, or loved hated by one of us. So I have 7 books on my list here. We'll see how many we get to, and I think it's going to be interesting. So I've got my Goodreads. I'm going to pull up my Goodreads, and we're going to just read a few and react. Ready?
I doubt it.
Okay, me neither. This is going to be interesting. So the first book that we're going to be talking about is The Inheritance Games, the first one in that series that we've both read and had very similar opinions on, which was we love and hate it at the same time. So there's it just keeps going, this list. Okay, are you ready?
I guess.
Okay, I'm only going to do like the short ones. If they're really long, I'm going to skip over them. Okay. I too will be expecting a surprise billion-dollar inheritance as compensation for how much I suffered while reading this. That's just a sassy comment.
That's not even
That's
clever.
not even a review. This is just a modern take on The White Girl. It's very special, but no one knows why and has to choose between 2 virtually identical white boys who are both in love with her for some reason. Whatever will she do? Also, I don't care about billionaires, so can someone give me 5 reasons as to why I read this?
I got 0 reasons as to why you read it. Like,
why?
All the information she just... It's a Sandy, so I'm assuming it's a she. You know what they say about assuming. All they said was, like, anything they mentioned in there was listed on the book jacket.
Book, yeah.
There's nothing about the content.
Well, I'm wondering...
There's nothing about, like, the writing stuff. Like, everything about it is, I hated the content of this book. Okay, read a different book.
Well, I'm wondering if she's talking to herself. Like, I don't care about billionaires, so someone give me a reason, like, why did I read this kind of thing.
I got no idea why you read it, because you're an idiot and you don't know how to read a book jacket. I'm done with you.
Oh my goodness, are you hungry?
Let's move on.
Do you like a snack? It's gonna slowly eat throughout this video. This said it would be like Knives Out. I wanted Knives Out. It gave me Truly a Devious and Paper Princess. They lied to me. I don't know what either of those books are, but it gave me Knives Out vibes. I mean, it's not identical to Knives Out, but it's an inheritance.
It's an inheritance, but there's not a murder.
Yeah.
If you went into it thinking it was going to be exactly like Knives Out, yeah, you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah, but you can't go into a book when someone says, oh, it's like this, and expect the exact same thing. Because it's never going to be exactly like that. You need to go in like thinking it's going to be like the vibes of whatever book.
If it's the exact same thing, that's already been written, and that's called plagiarism, and that's illegal.
This one just says, bye, I'm free. I got nothing with that one. But that was one that like neither of us were particularly excited about. So the next one is going to be The President is Missing, which is a book that we both read and relatively loved pretty well.
I like that one.
I like that one. This one says, this is a disappointing effort from this duo, as I found this underwhelming. Mr. Clinton always has a penchant for wordiness. Exasperated in this novel. 2 of 10 stars, but he gave it a 1-star review. So, you're saying
2 of 10 would be 1 star.
I guess you're right. 5. Yeah. Underwhelming and wordy is what I got from that one, which I mean, it's not, it's like, it's a thriller. So I think it's on the edge of your seat, but it's set in a plot, like with like the president and that kind of stuff as an overdone. Like there's a lot of things that are set like that.
But also the entire book is written from the president's perspective.
Right. So it's going to be.
And going into it, you know that generally a president is very long-winded. I think it came across as realistic
because of that.
Because you really felt like you weren't. It didn't feel like you were reading from the perspective of like a 12-year-old child. Like, it felt like you were reading from the perspective of a politician, of an elected official, of a president, because you had a president in it. I think that's a fair criticism, but I felt, personally, that added to it, whereas they felt that it detracted from it.
I honestly didn't even notice it. Like, I was so invested in the plot that,
that's fair too.
Like, that was my thing. Okay, this one is longer, but like it's got a lot of things in it. This is probably starts off aggressive. Okay, this is probably the worst novel I've ever actually finished. I know there are people who enjoyed it, and I don't want to insult them, but Bill Clinton and James Patterson deserve my insults. They put their names on a book that was a string of mixed metaphors, cliches, overused tropes, repetition, terrible character development, clunky dialogue, and red herrings, with redundant climaxes and an extended ending, topped off with a hopeful political message that is based in fantasy. I'll probably try a variety of Patterson books, but it seems that this first impression sticks. But just to see if this first impression sticks, I'm obviously a reading masochist. What? There's a lot of stuff that was happening in that one.
I think that person needs these snacks more than I do.
That was just aggressive.
They're a little hangry. I don't think this is a genre that person reads very often.
That's what I'm wondering.
And that's fine.
Because a lot of those things are things that, like,
you
need in a thriller / mystery.
All the criticisms of that were criticisms of this genre in general. I'm not going to take that one personally.
You shouldn't take any of these personally.
I wouldn't take it personally if I were Bill Clinton or James Patterson either.
Okay, well, this one's kind of chill. This is a case of me, not the book. I just can't get into it. All the politics talk and that corrupt world of government. Just not interested at this time, so I'm putting it aside. I don't know if they DNF'd it or not, but I mean, fair. At least you know.
Yeah,
I like
fair.
that I'm assuming it's I don't know if it's a he or she. I need to stop assuming people's genders. This person started off a negative review the best way that I like it, which is just being honest of like, this is why it didn't work for me.
Mm-hmm.
I like it when they don't attack the book. They kind of like phrase it in a way. This was very specific, but like you can phrase a negative review in a way that doesn't feel like an attack on people who liked it.
Yeah. Look, I've definitely had books or things that hit too close right now, and I can't deal with that right now.
Well, I mean, a lot of people, I still can't. There's a book on my shelves that's like a romance that takes place in like a quarantine, and I still am not sure I can read that one quite yet. Now, it's not like a sickness or quarantine. It was more like, I don't actually remember what it was, but I know a lot of people couldn't like read that. And like, I get that. If it's,
like
it hits too close.
I was listening to the Psychologists Are In podcast, and they just did the one where the Thornburg's virus gets loose.
Oh, yeah.
And
that hits a little close.
Contagious disease gets loose, and they're like, okay, this one was a little tough.
So, the next one, if it'll load, I thought I would do a couple that are like our favorites. Those are some that we read together. Now we'll do a couple that are our favorites that I feel like will be personally attacked by. So I thought I'd start with me, since I feel like you've had a few that have felt attacking to you. So I'm going to go with the ACOTAR series, the very first one, and that one, because why not? And I'm already scared, so here we go. Wait, that's not a...
Would you like me to read these?
Maybe. Okay, I don't like that you laughed at this one.
I am a second away from dousing myself in gasoline and lighting myself on fire just so I never have to look at this book again. I'm going to jump in before you and say there are other things you could douse in gasoline and light on fire to keep you from seeing this that are not you.
Like the book
like
itself?
The book.
Like, I don't really, like, I would never burn a book, but if that's your thing, that's your thing. See, I like sassy things like that because I just think they're funny. Because that doesn't have to do with, like, that's not attacking if I like the book. That's just that person did like the book. That was funny to me. That was humorous.
I'm just going to read the opening paragraph of this one.
Okay.
It's a long one. It's a very long one, but the opening paragraph is...
Interesting.
Just, like, I think it's okay. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling.
Mm-hmm.
This also happens to be my first experience of a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and it left me disappointed. I believe that Beauty and the Beast shows that love is not superficial. Love is being attached to and caring for somebody to inspire of their flaws, but not with and for their flaws.
Okay, fair. Yes, it is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. But, just to give the book some credit, it's a series, and this love interest is not the end game. So, like, you're supposed to like him to get into the series, but you're not supposed to like him for a long period of time. It's just... So, I mean, but, like, I don't know how you would know that if you stopped after the first book. Because it's very loosely based, I feel like, on the story of Beauty and the Beast. There's just a lot more to it, okay? And Tamlin is just, he's okay. Like, he's not, I don't want to spoil it, although it's been out for a while, so I feel like it's okay to spoil, but I get it, but okay. You need more information, because that's the point. It's my theory.
Well, this is my favorite one. Review maybe to come.
Hasn't decided if they're going to talk about it yet. What?
I don't know if there's any context in this.
Okay.
An absolute instant DNF. I'd rather pull all my teeth out without anesthesia than having to suffer another minute of reading this one hell of a book. Yeah, there's nothing in that. Never mind.
That one doesn't... I don't feel, like, personally attacked by that one either. I just feel like fantasy romance is not everyone's thing, and this book is definitely more smutty than you would expect, although it's nothing like the books in the rest of the series, because it just keeps going. That one was one that, like, going into it, I thought was going to be interesting, because people I'd seen who reviewed it and said, like, negative things about it, all the negative things were things that, like, I like in books. So I was like, not all of them, but most of them. And so I was like, okay, well, that's... I'm kind of set here. This one's for you, and I feel like this one is either going to be hilarious or a terrible idea. It's the first Boxcar Children book.
I will fight somebody. Okay. Okay.
So,
okay.
I have a suspicious feeling that a lot of these are going to be people who didn't read it when they were younger and are reading it now for the first time.
You're probably right.
Okay, this one starts with, I don't mean to be harsh on anyone's nostalgic childhood fave. So.
A great way to start.
But this is the most boring children's book I've ever read. In the library where I work, we have all 157 of these books, and they're constantly circulating. The kiddos of today cannot get enough of book number 1, which is 97 years old. I do not understand. Every single character is written exactly the same. There are no motivations and no emotions. Even the dog is boring. It feels like it was written only to teach kids how to read. I'm testing your anger today, apparently. I'm so sorry. I did not mean to be.
Okay, the most boring childhood book. Probably going a little far.
Yes. But, I mean, again, it sounds like I don't know. It sounds like a person who read it. It sounds like
a person who has read it as an adult. No, this person clearly has not read these books as a child. Which I think should be a crime, but that's me. All the characters are fairly similar, but let's also remember that you can't use one point and then use the counterpoint against it and be like, this book is 97 years old. Yeah, that's how they wrote 97 years ago. You don't get to use both sides of the argument to make the same point. Like, no.
I mean, in defense of children's books...
Yeah, you can't go into it with high expectations. You can't
go into it with high expectations because the writing is not for you. So, that's why. Anyway, I have another one. I won't do too many because I know it's going to, like, personally hurt you. Nearly 70 years later, this ever-positive and resourceful foursome of kids and their desire to stay together still entertains children. The gender roles and stereotypes are, however, nauseating. But that's with 21st century eyes.
It is.
I mean, I don't remember a lot of the gender roles. I don't think that was a thing that I was paying attention.
I mean, it's definitely like the 14-year-old boy goes out and tries to make the money, and the 12-year-old girl stays home and plays house.
But at the time, like, who was going to hire a young girl over a young boy? No one. I mean,
time context goes into effect.
Look, I don't want a kid reading this really, really in-depth book about really real-world issues or whatever. No kid's going to even want to read that. They're going to want to read the simple book about some kids hanging out in a boxcar.
Yeah. And like, well, 6-year-old Benny's like, I want to help out. That's a 6-year-old. 6-year-old wants to go help out.
Yeah.
Like, I understand. I understand they're wrong.
Okay, and the last two that we're going to do are books that one of us loved and the other one didn't. So we're going to start with School for Good and Evil, because I love it, and Chris very much did not, which is fine.
I was talking about it today at lunch, actually.
Were you really? That's fun.
We were, and I said, I went into this book with expectations of what it was going to be, and it was not them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why I disliked it so much.
Okay.
Was because I wanted it to be what I thought it should be, and it was not those things. Okay. You're not going to read my review of it. My review's long.
No, I'm not. I honestly forgot you reviewed it.
Probably for that.
Okay.
1 star is probably too harsh, but I can't rate this higher than that, seeing as I did not enjoy myself at all while reading this. Just another hyped up disappointment.
It's not everybody's thing, and that's totally fine. It's just hit right for me. I mean, it is peddled as middle grade, and I would consider it high middle grade, low YA, so it's that weird in between. So if you're reading it for younger kids, like the first one's probably not terrible, but they get worse. But at the same time, like I'm currently reading Percy Jackson, and there's some stuff in there that I'm like, why are we talking about this?
Didn't finish around 30%. There's just so much world building, it's overwhelming, and I feel needlessly complicated. I'm not really a fan of the characters or the direction the story is headed in. I'd rather spend the little time I have to read on something I'll enjoy more. I can see how some would enjoy this, I just didn't. That's
fair. I mean, there is a lot of world building that has to go. That's the thing. That's like that weird line that I don't know how to, how does an author handle well? Because like, if it's the first in a series, it's the first in a fantasy series, you have to do that world building. Otherwise your world's going to get really confusing. But at the same time, if it's too much, it's too much. Like I remember reading Crescent City for the first time, and a lot of people said that you had to get 100 pages into it because all of that was world building. And that's totally fair. Like I got into it relatively early, but when I went back to reread it, I picked up on so much stuff the second time because I'd already had an idea of what this world was. So like, and that's one of my favorite books. So it's like, it's that weird, I don't know how to do it. Like I would do it terribly if I was writing. Like I would not be good at world building.
I like this one.
Okay. Is it yours?
No, it's not. Quite possibly one of the worst books I have read in my life. It is sloppy, disorganized, and there's not enough descriptions to satisfy the beauty of the world. Don't get me wrong, the concept is beautiful, and I can see why people would gravitate toward this, but this could have been better executed.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
I think that was my comment.
That's pretty good. I'll give you that.
I thought the premise of these books was incredible.
I think it's, I don't know where
I just felt like it was I felt like it was a missed opportunity to do some things. Fair.
And like that's one of the things with that series is that it does have a lot of it's got a lot of moving parts. It's kind of like it's what I would consider a high fantasy for middle grade or for like younger, readers, because there's so many moving parts and there's a lot of complex stuff to it. So yes, like I could never read an adult high fantasy because I would get so confused. So like I get that. It clicked for me for some reason. Or I'm just really good about reading over stuff and then figuring it out later rather than figuring it out first and then letting that world help. Like there's a lot of world building stuff that I know I don't pick up on because I just kind of skim over them in my brain.
I'm not really sure how to rate this book. Maybe I need to read the entire series to decide, because while I found it very engaging, well-written, surprising, and loved the idea, there were some very misogynist sentences here and there, and an overall sexist idea that wasn't quite resolved. Since Book 2 is called A World Without Princes, I suppose these problems might be asserted there, so I'll wait until after reading to decide on my rating here. Oh, and the whole beauty ugly theme being connected to goodness or evilness is really disturbing. Still, I hope this will be better explored in the next book in a redeeming way. There's a huge lack of diversity too. That means you have a lack of imagination.
Yeah, because nothing is, I don't think anything is described skin color wise, but I might be all kinds of wrong. Also, it's a POC author. You don't think he would write his different people in... Sorry, now I'm ranting.
It continues. So I liked it a lot, but can't say I loved it until hopefully I'm sure children who read this won't be taught that they have to respect the man because he's in charge and that boys can't ask other boys to the ball. So far, actually, I feel guilty to even say I liked it.
Okay. There's a couple pieces here to pick apart. One, I see where you were coming from. I do. But yes, you have to keep reading because, like, this is just setting up those ideas where he's going to break them down. That's like the whole point of the series, is to take what you consider like stereotypically good, bad, which does play a lot, unfortunately, in the like pretty versus ugly, you know, like that kind of attractiveness scale, and like totally dismantle it. Fair. But yes, you really have to keep reading. But I get like being uncomfortable reading that kind of stuff because yes, there's a lot of comments like that, but they're also challenged from what I remember. Now, I read this a couple of years ago, but like from what I remember, everything is kind of challenged in some way. I can't remember if it's challenged in this book. I'm assuming not, since this person is so mad about it. But like I remember it being challenged in some way. Last one. Do you know what this one is?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay. What? I'm curious if you're right.
You told me.
I did? Okay.
That you were going to do Watership Down.
Yep, that's what it is. It's Watership Down. Okay. I'm 100 pages in, and this book is as boring as they come.
Yes.
So many indistinguishable rabbits hopping around, eating various types of green things in the ground. I tried to read... Oh, she flipped the words. I tried to read it on my lunch break. And I find that I'd always rather do anything but start back on this book. Is it a rule that classics have to be boring? Do books become classics because they are boring and someone has decided that it's a mark of high class to read boring books? Oh God, please let this book get better since there are 350 more pages to go. And then there's more, but that was just... That made me giggle.
The first 2/3 of this book are the most boring things. Like, it's not good. I remember both my brother and I read and loved this book. We read the beginning, and it was hard. We had to, like, my brother literally had a schedule written out to try to get through this book. Like, I have to read this many pages. And I swear to you, when I read it, I hit this point, and it just flipped, and I couldn't put it down. And my brother hit the exact same point, and it flipped, and he stayed up all night and read it. I was a rule follower and went to bed. The beginning of it is boring. I will 100% grant that. I was nodding along as you were
reading. Nope. I thought this was going to be a lovely story about adorable rabbits having an adventure. This is very dark and depressing and not nearly happy enough for a story with so many bunnies. Not for me.
That's fair. If you thought this was going to be Peter Cottontail, you were sadly mistaken. There's definitely full-on bunny battles, which is really fun to say.
That is fun. Yeah, that's a thing.
There's full-on bunny battles. The whole premise of the book is that there's this one bunny who's psychic because he's the fifth born in the litter, and apparently the fifth born has psychic abilities. This is a real thing that's in the premise of this book. And he sees the death and destruction of their entire warren, their entire rabbit warren. He's like, y'all, we gotta leave. And they're like, ha, no, we don't. And so the 5 of them leave. And later we find out there's a bunny who has escaped and has found them. And he's like, yo, he was right. Like, it got, I think it got destroyed by people that were building either a shopping
it was like next to someone's house or something.
Like they were building a neighborhood or something.
So they're trying to get all the bunnies out.
It starts out dark.
Yeah, it does.
So, like, if you thought this was, like, happy-go-lucky bunnies, you figured that out pretty fast.
Yeah, you did. Okay, this one I think is really interesting. It's a short one, but this person read it in 1997 and then again in 2020.
Okay.
So, here's my last one we'll do for today's video. In 1997, didn't pull me in, I'm afraid. Turns out Adams just really isn't my cuppa. I'm assuming they mean, like, cup of tea?
Yeah, that's British.
Is that British? Cuppa. Okay. And then in 2020, no, really, I pretty much hate everything I learned about rabbit society in the first 5 pages. So, I mean, at least they, like, gave it a second shot.
Yeah, they gave it a second shot. I will give you that he writes, like, there's some assumptions that are made about what bunnies do. Like, there are some assumptions that have to be made, because especially, I don't remember when this book was written, but in that book, like, he's not studying bunnies. This was like stories he told his children on road trips to keep them entertained, because they didn't have TVs that dropped from their ceiling of their car. I get it. The beginning is really, really hard to read.
It's also, I will say, it's, at least for, I think most of us, it's a journey novel.
Yeah.
In a sense. And that's not, including me, that's not everyone's thing.
Like, the first 3 parts of it are journey.
Or they're journeying from one place to the other.
And then they find their place, they find their new warren, and then they journey again. So, yeah, it's a lot of travel. And bunnies are little. It takes them a long time to travel.
That's one of the things, like, I remember about the beginning of the book, was like, they just kept traveling and traveling and traveling. And I was like, can we get anywhere, please?
But for the record, they travel a whole lot faster than hobbits.
I mean, that's fair. Fair.
They're hobbits.
Oh my gosh. Is that your final thoughts on that?
That's my final open-ended thoughts.
Okay. So that was our experiment. I hope you enjoyed whatever this turns into. I don't know what editing else is going to make it, but I hope that you enjoy whatever it is. Thank you for coming on yet again.
Hey, you're welcome.
If you'd like to see more of Chris, I actually have a playlist of all the videos that he has been in. So if you'd like to see more of him and all the weird other kinds of challenges and stuff we've done, check it out. I'll leave it up above and down below. I thought you were going to say
all the weird challenges I've caused.
No. But either way, I hope that you guys enjoyed. And if you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below if you'd like to be part of this awesome growing family. I've also got all my social media down there, as well as other fun bookish links. So check all that out, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.